And I like the birdhouse pictures that Shannon posted.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Me too.
All right. Oh, we're live. Jamie's hosting, not me. I'm gonna go on
That's
mute.
okay.
Jamie.
We want to hear about hiking in Santana.
Hiking. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. We went to the Santan, the Gold Mine Trail, right, which we had never been on before. And there's apparently 2 gravestones there that like these guys got buried there, and like there's that, right? So that was kind of an unexpected visual. You can check it out on Facebook, on my personal Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Wow. I like the Santan Mountains. I like that area. In fact, I'm going to be down there the first week of February. I might have to get on your schedule.
I think so. Let's make that happen.
Okay.
All right. Jamie Young, ladies and
All
gentlemen.
right. Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Lavenia Success Mastermind Group on Thursday, January 14th. Before we get started, as usual, I want to go over some housekeeping. We've got later on today, we have Nancy Burton-Shaw with Yoga Basics at 3:30 p.m. These are all Eastern times. And Mark Wiggle is back with us again at 8 o'clock with Global and Tactical Marketing. So be there, be square. I'd love to see you. I'm going to try really hard to get to that. I keep saying I'm going to get on Nancy's class, and I go back to that little talk I had a few weeks ago about procrastination, and my name right next to that definition. So at least for yoga. Well, anyway, the topic for today, before I get into that, I want to say hi to everybody, to all the regulars here. We have Adrian, Carl, Ivier, Gail, the doctor of love himself, John Lavenia, Cyril, Coral, Kim, Daisy, Therese up here in the Northwest, trying not to yawn. Sorry if we're keeping you up. Allie, and I'm kidding, by the way. Allie, David, that's all on the first page that I can see. Who else? Who did I miss? Sylvia, Robin, good morning, everybody, and Linda, Evelyn, and a couple of people that I can't see their faces. But so today, what I thought I'd talk about, since we're at least here in the States, we're dealing with some unrest and some uneasiness, and then everybody in the world, obviously, we're all dealing with the COVID and the spiking, and now with some issues with getting the vaccine out. I think there's some countries that are struggling with that. I know we are here in the States. So given all that, I thought a great topic to talk about would be patience. And I'm going to tie that into what's going on in our lives and in the world today, and in our personal lives, in our commercial lives, with people we love. You notice a lot of my topics, or some of my topics, are interconnected with our daily workings and what's going on up here. What I thought is I would hit patience today, since it seems like since last this thing's, and I'm going to focus on COVID, because I think it's relatable to all of us right now, because that's the net that's over all of us, over the entire world. I'm going to start with first the definition of patience is the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset. Now, there are a few key words in there that I was drawn to, and that was tolerate, angry, and upset. And typically what happens when we run out of patience, at least, and I'll speak from my own experience, when I ran out of patience, those three bubble right up to the top of that pot. My tolerance, my ability, and my short fuse that I will admit I have one of those. My daughter will tell you that. I believe she's inherited that, which is the bane of my existence these days. And getting upset. And so what happens is as we become impatient, where we lack the patience, those three kind of rule our thought processes in our lives. I think we're all getting cabin fever. I know we have cabin fever. I have it. There's some of us, we were able to venture out. There's here in the States, there's different regulations and different levels and thresholds for interacting. The same for the rest of the world. But I know for the most part, we'd like to get back to some normalcy. So let's just talk about in our personal lives first. how patience works within our personal lives. Now, for me, I have actually it kind of goes back and forth between my personal life and my commercial life, my business life as a full-time employee for a company, as a entrepreneur with a side business. Actually, two. One is going, is up and running. One is fledgling, and I'm working on getting going, as everybody is here. So what happens is, in my work life, I have a boss who is very much a micromanager, and nothing's good enough. Even though, as we look at, our lives are driven by data when we, at least in sales, and we look at what our successes are, the data shows you're knocking it out of the park. You're doing terrific, but you have somebody who's kind of tamping you down and telling you, it's not enough. And so the patience with that type of personality is tested severely. And the tolerance that you have for that person is very, very thin, I believe. I believe that might be the same for most. The challenge for me, and I think the challenge for all of us there, is not to get angry or upset. I think you can lose your patience and your tolerance, but as it degrades, you're going to get angry and upset. And for me, when you get angry and upset, this cloud sets in, and the blinders start to, I put them on subconsciously, and I'm not looking for ways where I can control that situation on my behalf. I had a friend one time, I was very frustrated with something that wasn't going right. This was years ago. And he said, and I may have said this in another talk, and somebody else may have brought it up, but he said, look, you treat, I think I did talk about this. You treat your life as a street, right? And you need to manage and cultivate and build and succeed on your side of the street. And the minute you step out into the street to get to the other side to control the situation, which would be, say, my micromanagement boss, then you're going to lose control, because you don't have control, complete control over that person's personality, management style, etc. So all you can do is control your side of the street, which is your level of patience, your level of tolerance, your level of anger, your level of being upset. And I use those as the basis of patience, right? So if you stay on your side of the street and you do the things that you can, when you wake up in the morning and look in the mirror, and you go to bed and look in the mirror, and that day you did everything you could to be right with yourself, that getting over to the other side of the street is going to get you totally out of your zone. If you can look yourself in the mirror and you did everything in spite of that person, in spite of COVID, in spite of some family misgivings or misunderstandings or anything, miscommunications, things like that, you've done all you can to look yourself in the mirror and go, I'm okay, I can go to sleep now. Or I'm up and I can go and I can seize the day because I'm right with myself on this side of the street. Then you can master, in my humble opinion, you can master patience. And so while you're mastering patience, you can come up with your own internal guidelines and fixes, I believe, that helps you. And that again is back to managing your side of the street. You can only control what you can control. We all know that, right? Of course that. So what can you control? You can control your level of your work ethic, your respect of others, your respect of your environment around you, what you do to make yourself a better person. Those are all the things that are under our control. I can't control John Lavenia. I can't control Glenn Henderson. I can't, Mark Wiggle, Adrian, Sylvia. I can't control anything that they do. I can't will them to do my bidding, right? If they decide, if we get together to do something, we partner together, and they decide to make a decision that I don't necessarily agree with, there's nothing I can do. I can't force them to change. So the patience, right? I have to keep my patience within a controllable confine so that I can have the wherewithal and the clear vision to get to where I need to get to. I believe patience like, and by the way, let's not confuse patience with procrastination, because you can use, right? You patience. Oh, I'm waiting for that to get finished. I'm waiting for that person to make a decision. I'm waiting for that order to be shipped. I'm waiting. You could confuse patience with procrastination very easily. In your own head, you have to decide what's the dividing line between the two of those. Okay. Now, patience is all my ducks in a row. I've done everything I can. Again, I can look in the mirror and say I'm true to myself. I've done everything I need. And then the next natural path to the least resistance is where you go, the path of least resistance. If you start to go down a path where there's resistance, you're going to get impatient, right? You get impatient, you're going to get, here we're back to those three words. You're going to get, your tolerance is going to wane. You're going to get angry and you're going to get upset. And now it's going to blow up. Happens to me more often than I'd like to admit. Now, what I'm very fortunate in is that I'm getting better in the last, I'd say 5 to 6 years, where I can recognize my impatience, my lack of patience, and I can, there's triggers, there's things that I see where I know that the next level I'm going to hit is intolerance, anger, and then I'm going to get upset, and then I'm going to make a fool of myself, and I'll do it again. But the trick, I think, for all of us is how can we manage that role? How can we manage that level of impatience, which leads to those other three key words that I'm talking about? How can we manage those so that we can be our best and be at our most successful, and not get bogged down by those emotions that are triggers of not being patient or impatience. I know a lot of you probably being new entrepreneurs, seasoned entrepreneurs, seasoned salespeople, seasoned ops, seasoned employees for companies. All of you have had a moment where you have gotten to this point where you're ready to throw your hands up in the air and you want to give somebody a left to the chin. And obviously that's not the way to take care of this stuff. Pardon me. The hard part is to, I think, get within yourself and understand your inner workings, as you know yourself better than anybody else, and figure out how you can clear the air so that you can get to your appointed rounds of success. Does that make sense? So if you level off on the impatience, and I think the first part of that is to figure out what got you there, right? What was that? Was that somebody else's actions? Were those your actions? Was that somebody's inaction? Was it a catastrophe? Was it a worldly pandemic? Your frustration, and I'll refer to us here in the States, of frustration with what's going on here politically with our government is I mean, you could get off this meeting and go to a whiteboard and probably list, I would bet you, at least 20 things that would trigger your impatience. Your kids, your wife, your husband, your brother, your sister, they're all there, right? For me, the key, again, is to how do you master that? How do you get on top of that? What go right next to all the 20 things you might write down on the whiteboard that get you to the point of impatience, and those three key words that I pointed out: intolerance, anger, and being upset. Off to the side, it's almost like a pro and con list. Off to the side, how can you manage those? How can you internally best manage that with which would keep you from getting to your successes? And I think those probably, by and large, keep us from being successful. I can name in my 30, 40 years the things that that I've been impatient about. Have I given up too early? Yes. Did I make a judgment where I got impatient based on my judgment? Yes. Check. Did I take a job that I thought was the grass was greener on the other side, and didn't let the job I was leaving solidify itself, cement itself, stay there long enough to make an effort and to make a difference? Yes, right? I think we all can say what we have. I would be interested in hearing some of your feedback on some situations where you found yourself, where your level of patience was thin, where you started to dive deep. I'll call it the dark side of those three emotions that the keywords that I've picked out earlier. Excuse me. And how did you, if you did, right? If you even were able to at one point in your life, either earlier on in your career or at this point in your career, how were you able to flip it? How were you able to turn that into a positive? How were you able to sidestep those three keywords while you became impatient? I don't think we're ever not going to be impatient. I don't think that's ever going to go away. What's going to go away is how we deal with it. Again, I'm repeating myself. How do we get up in the morning, go to work, run our businesses, have our relationships, whether they be our marriages, our friendships, our business relationships, whatever they are, with our children? How do we manage that level that we can, that's maintainable from the standpoint of being patient? Because everything we do all day long, I believe, has something to do with we're reactive to it. Mostly we're reactive, and and part of that being reactive is our level of patience. Our high school the other day was we were doing a fundraiser. The girls basketball team. My daughter doesn't play basketball, but I support the team because she plays soccer for the same high school. So across the street, there's a Mod Pizza, and they decided to have a fundraiser. I'm standing at the counter. I went and picked the pizza up. I came home. Well, thank God I'm only 5 minutes away. I don't know if you all know Mod Pizza here in the States. I don't think it's over in the other side of the pond. They have these cakes, these round, they look like a hockey puck, and they're to die for. Well, I left without getting them. And I came home and I had 2 slices of pizza, and I went, damn it, I want my hockey puck. Got in the car, drove back over, and as I'm waiting to get this thing, I noticed a lady standing to my left who says, now this place is busy because it's dinner time. We don't seat anybody here in the state of Washington. So you either get it delivered or you go pick it up. So there's a lot of people standing around, and the people on the other side of the counter are very, very busy. This lady got very impatient and very rude to the person behind the counter and said, this is ridiculous. And so I watched her melt down. She went from impatient to intolerant to angry to upset in the span of 15 seconds. And I don't usually speak out in a public place like that because I don't believe in admonishing people with a crowd, but I just took a sidestep toward her and I quietly said, there's COVID, right? We're in the middle of COVID. It is dinner time. It is busy. Maybe you should have ordered earlier or come in later. And I grabbed my cake and I left. I wasn't going to interact with her. I wasn't rude. I just reminded her what we're in. So using her as an example, she wasn't mastering how to get out of that impatient mode and get away from the dark side to get to a higher level, to succeed in not berating the person who's working very hard behind the counter. Make sense? So it's infectious, right? And not in a good way. But for us, again, the challenge is how do we deal with it? What was it that got us there? What's the best way to get us out of there? And then to keep that lesson, right? To understand why it happened, what made it happen, and to try your best to not let it happen again. So with that, I would hope there would be with what all that we do here, how we learn from each other, what we do as entrepreneurs, what we do as employees, what we do together as a group. I would think there would be a ton of examples here where we could learn how better to get away from being impatient, how better to stay away from the dark side, with examples that we each can share. I've shared a few. I'm sure I'm going to hear some people, they're going to trigger some other examples that I have in my life. But I would love to hear from anybody at this point. Have at it and raise your hand. And of course, we have the doctor of, I'm going to say soccer with that shirt on. Adrian is up first. And then it's going to be Cyril and then Ivy. Hey,
I'll stand down if other people are speaking. I was just
You're
diving
good.
in to get the ball rolling.
Go ahead. You're first. You're up first.
Yeah, for me, Jamie, you're absolutely right. I think there's a vicious feedback loop between stress and patience. And I know that if I allow myself to get into a stress state at any point during the day, I'm going to be a heck of a lot less patient. So the secret is being prepared and forewarned against stress and setting out on my day to say, whatever happens, I'm not going to let it stress me. So the moment I lose control of those stress levels, sure, I'm not as patient a person as I would be when I'm feeling great. And that's when you start lashing out at people or answering more curtly or being shorter or less tolerant of mistakes. So for me, that's what it's all about. It's that preparation to say, I'm going to manage my stress, set off with the right preparation to manage stress and know what I'm going to do to respond to bad things before that happens. Once I got to the patience test, there's already a problem because I'm not going to be as great with people as I could have been. So that's how it strikes me, Jamie.
Awesome. Yep, you're right. Preparation, preparing yourself when you get into the situation is probably going to help you keep patient. And you're right. A fallout, if you were, of being impatient is stress. You're so right. Thanks, Adrian. Good words. I believe Cyril is next, and then Evier.
Hi, guys. Hi. This is an interesting one. I've been working on this one for many years, mainly because I know that some of the thing you're talking about with your boss is I know I have a certain amount of that, and I've been trying to work on that for years because I realized when I was teaching that my sense of perfectionism within myself was actually detrimental to myself and particularly to the people I was trying to teach, because I can't treat them as I might have treated myself previously, because lack of praise and too much sorry, I lost the word. Too much criticism is just really damaging to a learning mind. So on that basis, I've tried to praise more, even in situations I wouldn't necessarily have otherwise, because even the fact that I see, you know, for example, you're in a situation like you are at the food shop, and you can see they're trying to deal with it. Somebody's made a mistake. They didn't put it in your bag. You acknowledge the fact that they're really busy, the fact that they're dealing with it as best they can, and you know what I mean? And just have patience. But I must admit, the other ones I have is that, to be honest, knowing that I have a certain amount of this, even though I've been working on it, to be honest, I feel when I see others with it and who really have large amounts of that perfectionism, or I feel sorry for them, because you have to remember that if they're doing it to you, they're probably doing it more to themselves. And if they're doing it more to themselves, what is their life like internally? So that's another one. So I feel sorry for them. And also there's two other things as well. One other being that I know when I'm tired, I am particularly vulnerable to letting go, because my ability to hold on is weakened. So I try and acknowledge the fact of whether I'm tired and whether that might play a role in the way I handle it. So that to try and to keep my patience more, because I know I'm more vulnerable to letting my impatience or anger free. And then the next one is from a conversation I had with a very good friend of mine, who's a professor of veterinary cardiology, and she practices at a very prestigious veterinary hospital north of London. And her approach I found so admirable, in that what she does internally is that however upset somebody else is, she tries to go the opposite way. She makes herself more calm, more polite, she does it better, because she has to deal with, you know, telling people that their pets have died. So, you know, that there is no room for her to get upset with them, even when they are. So it's perfectly, you know, but I admire that so much, because of, you know, when we have so little patience with somebody who's trying to do a good job, but it's just one of those days, then they're failing, and, you know, and you let loose on them, and it's not kind. And we do need to be kind. So anyway, that's my 10 cents worth. Thanks very much, guys.
Sure, thanks. Well said. Well said. And I'll just say this: we're I don't think we're ever, and I've said this before, we're never going to not be impatient. It's how do you handle it? How do you master it? How do you muzzle it to the point, not where you stress yourself out, but where you can be more creative and not, I would say, destructive, or nasty to other people. Good job, Cyril. Thanks for those words. I've got Ivier is up next, and then it's Nancy and Gail. Ivier.
Hi, Jamie. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this. I mean, I actually had something happen today that brought this up for me, so it's quite timely. It's interesting that everyone started by talking about the triggers that make us impatient, and it's good to have that sense of self-knowing or self-awareness, so you know what your trigger points are. For me, it's if someone's rude or if there's some kind of injustice going on, I just know it's just a red flag for me. And and so because I'm aware of those things in myself, I know when it's coming. I know when I'm about to get into that response mode, and so I can hold myself back now. Because if you'd seen version of me 5 years ago, I'd just fly off the handle and do what I wanted to do and pick up the pieces afterwards, right? And so today something happened, and when I got the information, I could see this going into this impatient and then the whole destructive, process that happens after that. And I just took a step back and I said, hang on a minute. It could have been anything. Somebody could have pressed the wrong button, or you might just need to escalate this to the person that actually has the power or the authority to do something about it. So there's no point venting my frustrations or my impatience on some, poor lackey on the other end of the phone that possibly doesn't even know what I'm talking about, or doesn't even know how to handle it, doesn't even know how to address it. And so I just took a step back and I said, you know what? It's not and these were my words. I said, it's not the answer I was looking for, but I thank you all the same for trying what you can from where you're at. And I addressed her by name, and I was just very cool, calm, collected like a cucumber. And I thanked her profusely. I mean, she thought she'd solved the problem. And I said, I appreciate all your help, and you've gone above and beyond. You try to do this, but it's not the outcome I was looking for. I will have to speak to somebody else about this. I think I know one or two people that I can pass this on to, and, we'll get some kind of resolution. But once again, I thank you for trying your hardest to make this right. So I ended that phone call with her in a good mood, me in a good mood, but knowing that a lot more conversation and work needs to happen to resolve that, right? I could have chosen the alternative and just rained on her parade, right? But I just thought, she probably doesn't even know what I'm talking about. She probably doesn't have the authority to overturn, what I'm dealing with, right? And I was probably justified to be upset if that's where I wanted to go. But I just thought, how is that going to serve me or her or anybody else? It's not a productive use of my energy or my emotional bandwidth. It's still not going to get, if anything, she might just shut down. And even if she could, give me the outcome I was looking for, by addressing her that way, she'd just go, you know what, I don't need to handle this. And she could have hung up on me, right? And so when I went through the possible scenarios on how this could end, I just chose to, you know what, let's just be the bigger person. Because if there are two hotheads in a conversation, who's listening to who? There's no resolution. You're not going to get, anywhere. No one's going to be happy at the end of that conversation. And I am one of those people, I would avoid confrontation at all costs. So if I'm with a friend and we get into an argument and they start screaming their heads off, I actually just retreat into myself and I step back and I go, when you've calmed down, we will have this conversation. But for now, let's park it. Let's focus on something else. We'll address it later when you and I are in the right headspace and we can come together and we can sort this out. And it diffuses the situation because the person is suddenly unarmed and they're like, oh, bummer. I was expecting you were going to respond and we could go, keep going at it, right? But as soon as you just pop that balloon, it's like all the air comes out and suddenly the fight's gone. It just dissipates, right? Yeah. So this came up for me today. So timely. And I'm just I'm glad I took that option because otherwise I may have been telling you a completely different story on this call. Yeah. So thanks, Jamie.
Great words. That's what I was looking for as an example like that. I mean, that's, conflict, when you raise it to conflict and it gets negative, it's never going to produce anything positive. Not, at least not in my life. I don't know if anybody's done that. I doubt it. I'd be surprised if somebody said that negativity produced something positive. I'd be shocked. But that was great. That's a great example, and I appreciate you sharing that. We've got Nancy next, Gail, and then Kim. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Jamie. Thanks for the topic. Hi, everyone. It's really interesting how we kind of sync up with each other in my public yoga classes. I've been using this as a concept this week, so great timing. A couple of things I wanted to say. The term mastery, I stay away from, because to me, it means that you got it, you're done, you're on top of it. And I think patience, like so many of these qualities, are an ongoing, right? It's an ongoing work in progress. That's just a thought on that. And then I totally agree with many of you, right? I all had great points. Adrian, you said something about, watching your level of stress, because that's what it comes down to me when I'm not in where I haven't been experiencing self-care and I'm not taking care of myself. I can see how I respond to other people in a not very appropriate way. So I think it really comes down to how you're taking care of yourself. And also, I'm just learning this a lot, that whatever I'm seeing in other people that I'm getting triggered by is something that I actually own inside. So I can get very impatient, not so much with people, but things, all right? Like putting things together. Like somehow I missed that time in kindergarten where you're like mechanically putting shapes together, things like that, or anything around technology. I have very little patience, but when I'm looking at it more and more, it's looking at how I'm impatient with myself. So just always bringing it back to you, I think, is really helpful. And then learning to give yourself compassion when you experience that kind of impatience, because then you can, like when you're experiencing that with somebody else, it's like sometimes the best thing to give is a sense of compassion for the other person, which is really hard to do when we're not taking care of ourselves. The other thing that occurred to me was, and it's happened to me too, like someone just pissing me off, sorry for the frankness, but pissing me off in line somewhere, and the want to try to tell them what to do. And when I really can pause for a second, and like Ivier was saying as well, just like ask myself what's mine to take care of, what's theirs, and like what could be really helpful here. And sometimes it's just having a little bit of compassion and just being like, yeah, I know I'm stressed too, or just kind of sharing something where that person can diffuse their energy. And those are just some ideas, but it's a great topic. And thank you so much for sharing it, Jamie, because you are right. There's a lot going on in people's lives personally and then globally, and especially in the States, that we can just get triggered all over the place. So it comes back to self-care for me.
Yep. Thanks. Great to hear that, Nancy. I keep saying this. I'm going to try to be in your class this afternoon, but no promises.
You're always welcome.
I wanted to, what you just said, and I saw something in the chat real quickly that to what Ivier said. If Ivier had gone the other direction and decided to confront this person and it turned it into an angry back and forth, that's a domino effect, because then that person, as well as Ivier, you're setting a mood, and now you're going to project out onto the people that you're going to interact with for the rest of your day. That person on the phone is not going to be very helpful to others. Ivier is probably not going to be very helpful to others or to herself or that person herself. So it's a domino effect. So if you could stop it right then,
you got it.
Imagine, yes. Imagine what you've done for yourself and everybody else for the rest of the day.
Yeah, good insight. Thank you, Jamie.
Well, that was on the chat. I'm just repeating what some people had said.
Well, great. Whoever said that, great insight.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, I've got Gail next, and then Kim, and then those are the last two hands. We're at the bottom of the hour, so anybody else, go ahead and speak up. Raise your hand if you'd like. Gail. Hi, Gail.
Hi. Just last week, when all this stuff in our country started and the Capitol was being stormed, I have a group of 10 friends. We're on a group text and we speak to each other every day. And I saw the Capitol being stormed, and I was so shocked and with disbelief that something like that could happen. And I never discuss politics with anyone. I think it leads to an argument many times.
Impatience.
But sorry?
Leads to impatience.
Yes. I happened to text my group, and I didn't condemn anyone, the president or anything like that. I just happened to say, did any of you see this? This is terrible. What's happening in our country? I can't believe it. That started off such a backwards and forwards. And the one lady who answered me right away, normally she's a very nice lady, very gentle and sweet. She answered with such a long, angry, nasty text. And how could I, why don't I have more compassion for the president and everything? And she went into a whole big thing. And at first I was upset and thought, I'm going to answer that. And then I thought, no, I can't do that, because that's just going to make things worse. And other people in my group started texting backwards and forwards with their opinions and so on. And I just decided, no, I'm not going to do that. And I said to Nancy, just thank you for your view on the subject. And I left it at that. And so after that big round of things, everything died down and we were okay. If I had given in to those feelings of hurt and anger, that she could be that nasty with me just because of what I had said, it would have made things so much worse than they ever were. And then also, when I was growing up, I think I've mentioned before, I did not have an ideal childhood. So it was very dangerous for me to voice an opinion or show any impatience or anything like that. So I never did. And after as an adult, being in therapy for 7 years, I learned how to be able to voice my opinion or my whatever I wanted to. When somebody was upset or impatient, I learned how to do it in a way that was not dangerous for me or for anyone else. And I used those things that I learned a lot in my business life, and especially in my last career as director of religious education, because many times I would have parents call me on the phone or come into the office. They're upset and angry with things that they were asked to do, that things that the Archdiocese of New York would not allow. There's different guidelines and things like that. And I found for me, the best thing was to listen and let them get it all off their chest, and then say, okay, and then try and come back gently with different things and not to get upset or angry. And you could see once they got it off their chest and they had said everything that they were upset about, they slowly came down. And if I could answer them in a way that was gentle and kind and understanding, I got a lot further with that than if I had been angry. So that's my little bit.
Absolutely. Good way to handle that. And it sounds to me like that. I think she was just looking to pick a fight and get into it and express. And that was probably her patience level. She was impatient. Yeah. She was frustrated with what was going on, and the first person who was going to engage, that blow the steam off. And
she was very hurt.
Yeah.
By what had happened, and to see, that things like that can happen. And she probably thought, even though I didn't say words that would say I'm against the president or I'm against who else, I don't do that.
Right.
She took it to heart because she was so hurt and upset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Good examples. Thanks. Appreciate that, Gail. Really wonderful insight. Kim is up next. She's the last hand up, which means we might end this early to go out and seize your day. Kim, hi.
Hello.
Hi, Kim.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi.
So Gail, I love what you said about, you know, less than ideal childhood, because that would be me as well. And so I carried that into my first marriage. And, you know, my ex-husband was very emotionally abusive. And so not being able to express myself as a child, you can imagine just the two of us just kind of, you know, clashed. And so words would fly, you know, and patience was just, you know, there all the time. But that's not really what I wanted to say. I just wanted to kind of touch on that because you had mentioned that. But I guess what a lot came up for me today. So patience, I guess the first thing that rose up is patience is a virtue. And I remember thinking, well, what does that, you know, what does that mean? And so, you know, virtuous means that, you know, you show a high moral standard. And sometimes I've heard that virtue could mean like God-given. And so I remember years ago people saying, well, be careful what you pray for, because I would pray for patience, you know, in my marriage, patience with my kids. And oh my God, I mean, things would just like, you know, crap would hit the fan, right? Because I'm praying for more patience. And it's like, okay, well, that's what I need is more patience. But anyway, I'm going to bring this around here. So I guess I just want to say, be careful what you pray for, you know, but Evie, I love what you said about having to pick up the pieces, because as I want to tie all that together with the ex and the marriage, and you know, there were so many times that, you know, words would fly or even things might fly, you know, in our home. And you know, all those things, you can't ever take any of that back. You can't take those words back. You can't take any of that stuff back. So, you know, it's really important to think about what we're thinking about, what we're going to say. Yeah. And so, you know, I guess, you know, it's important for us to search inside of ourselves, you know, and really think about the why, like why we might be responding in such a situation. And for me, like an example was my daughter. I mentioned on here the other day, my daughter was coming over, but prior to her coming over, I don't even know what happened, something with my husband. I couldn't even tell you what it was, but I snapped at him. And it was like, wow, where did that come from? And it was like almost like an impatient type thing. And once I stepped back and thought about it, I thought, you know what? I'm really anxious and stressed out about her coming over, because I just, you know, I don't know what it's going to turn out like. And there in turn, because of my impatience and my anxiety, I snapped at him. So it's just really important to, you know, have that, you know, self-awareness, and not even just the self-awareness, but also to make the amends when you do have those impatient moments where you might, you know, you blow that fuse, have those moments, you know, where you go back to the person and make the amends and say, you know, I'm sorry. And in particular, if you're able to get in touch with yourself and realize why it was that you did that, you know, perhaps express that. Yeah, I guess I want to challenge Jamie. That's my final point. I wanted to challenge Jamie because you said negativity produces nothing positive. So I have to challenge you on that, because I will say to you, I've had a lot of negativity in my life. I've overcome a lot of, you know, abuse and hurt and pain and just different things. And that has created this positivity in my life. So I don't know that I agree with that, because, you know, had I not gone through all of that negativity and all of that hurt, I don't know that I would be able to be here having this conversation, because it's caused me to really dig deep and you know, get in touch with a lot of things that have happened in my life and really try to understand why I behave the way that I do, or why that I responded in that manner. So I don't know if I agree with that. I think that sometimes negativity can produce a wealth of positivity. That's the right term. But anyway, that's all. So thank you.
I appreciate the challenge, because as I said, I've not experienced that much. And I said I would be surprised if it was that way for somebody else, and you've proven me surprised. And I don't disagree with that at all. That's an example that I've had in my life. But you know, you're right. I guess we do grow and get better with challenges, and sometimes those challenges are of the origin of some negativity. Wow, I got a whole ton of hands just came up. That's awesome. Ivier is up again, and then Cyril, Mandy, Glenn had his hand up, but he sat back down on it. So, Ivier.
So I think just two quick things, Jamie. One, just to Kim, I think if we clarify that negative experiences, when worked on, and the learning from those experiences taken on board, that's what creates the positivity. But if you leave the negativity unchecked and you just let it run amok and just, wreck your personality, your psyche, your emotional stability, then that's never going to be positive. So seeing a counselor, talking through it, changing habits, reading books, that kind of thing, that's what flips it on its side, and you become positive because then you can see the contrast, right? But if you just carried on staying in that negative space, you wouldn't know any better. That would be normal, MO, right? For you. So that was one thing I wanted to say. The second thing I wanted to say was we are so blessed and so lucky to be on this platform, because John has created a space where we can be equipped as people, and we can go out into our worlds, our communities, and make a positive change, a positive influence because of what's happening here. So the world might be going crazy, but on this platform, we are being enriched, we're being supported, we're being educated. There's a change, there's a basic transformation that's happening in everybody on this platform that gives us that courage to actually go back into our own world and make a difference. So let's go there and be the change that we want to see. So that was one thing I wanted to draw out of this, that, don't think when we get off this call, we've got to go back to however people in our backyards are behaving. No, we have some special stuff happening here that we can go out with the light that we have from this platform and actually influence our worlds. Yeah. So that was it for me. Thank you, Jamie.
Here. Yep. Here. Yep. Thank you. Thank you for weighing in again. Appreciate that. Cyril's up again, and then Mandy, Janet, and Glenn is back up on deck fourth. Cyril.
Hi. I must admit, I have on occasion used my anger. I've tried to temper it, apologize for my anger, and with politeness, so restraining myself from venting, use that anger to get to basically try and put through my dissatisfaction with the service, and to take it a little higher, but also often, when where possible, to apologize, particularly to the person I'm talking to, when it wasn't their fault, because there are times when, as Ivier was saying previously, that it wasn't the person you're talking to, is just the person you happened to be talking to at the time, and actually didn't do the bad service. I must admit, sometimes I do it when I should deal with it in a much better way, but there are times when I have found, when I've particularly channeled it well, that it definitely got it actually became a useful thing to do when things were put into operation that otherwise wouldn't have been if I'd let it go. So but it has to be channeled, and you have to try and still be polite, but acknowledge the fact you are angry, particularly within yourself, so that you're not venting. But it's a fine art, and you have to pick your situations carefully, because it's so easy to put yourself in further predicament. Because, as has said previously by other people, you vent or in a situation. Well, okay, I remember what I'm talking about. I'm thinking about. There's a particular comment that Chris Voss makes about when he talks about it, for example, from the point of view of somebody else has been the person you're talking to in terms of a service situation, and somebody else has been venting at them, is to actually be really nice to them, and acknowledge the fact that that was quite upsetting for them, and particularly in a situation where maybe you weren't sorry, that they may not normally would give you something that might be part of the service, is that by being nice and personalizing yourself to them, you actually can get even better service. So it's quite interesting. It's worth having a look at with the Chris Voss book. Never Split the Difference. So so you can get a positive out of negative, but you really do have to restrain yourself. Yes. Bye.
Thanks, Harold. Yeah, I'm being proven wrong left and right here. I love it. I really do. It's opening my eyes for sure. Mandy's next, Janet, and then Glenn. Hi, Mandy.
Hi, Jamie. Yeah, I love this subject, especially with everything that's going on at the moment. I'd start with saying I agree with what Nancy was saying about making sure you take self-care. I think I tend to find that I've got a low frustration tolerance, and the less sleep I've had, the less frustration tolerance I've got. And just things, then if you knock anything over, you just get stressed with it, etc. You can walk into the cat bowl or something. I used to run a couple of help desks, and having heard what people were saying to them, I also, like Ivy said, try very hard not to take it out on anybody on a help desk in a support centre. Unless they're being rude back to me, I wouldn't be rude back, but that would probably be something that would get me a bit more angry. There's a couple of things though that come to my mind. I think I mentioned yesterday about politics. I am interested in US and UK politics. I think what I find at the moment, the best way of dealing with those when Brexit was happening and what's happening now is when everything is talking about it, is to just turn it off. Just walk away from it, turn it off, put something else on, because otherwise you're just going to get pulled into the echo chambers of everything that's talking to you. And there's one thing that I found when I was a single parent from when my son was, well, when he was born really, although we could see his dad. And I worked 4 days a week and I was always quite tired. And I didn't handle it very well right at the beginning. And one of the other mums at school, she suggested something to me, and it was called screen-free parenting. And she was from Alabama. She was living over here. And it's by somebody called Hal Edward Runkle. And if you go into his website, screenfree.com. And basically what he was saying was that it's all other people have said, it's about learning to pause. So you pause first, you respond more and you react less. And it's also about looking at yourself with your children. And he's got another one called Screen-Free Marriage and Choose Your Own Adulthood. And the adulthood one is for teenagers or for the older children, which I found also really, really good with my son. He's got audibles as well on these subjects, but it just showed me a completely different way of handling my son, because he was probably going through the terrible 2s, 3s and 4s at that point. And it was like, oh my God. And I just, you just deal with it so differently. You take a pause. Because if you have to catch it at the point where you're getting to the angry bit, because if you get to the mad bit, you've lost it already. When you see these parents, and I did it as well, when you're there and your kids just last bit they've done and they really ran, and then you find really tall dad shouting at their child because something, and it's like it's just wound you up so much that you've now lost it. He knows that, but it's about getting to the point where you never get to that. So if I could recommend anything for anybody who's got young children, teenagers, or even in a marriage, it's screen-free. So Hal Runkle is his name, and it's just brilliant. So I want to give that back to other people because it helped me so much. Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, Mandy. Good points. Appreciate it. Glad to have you here. I have Janet M. is up next, followed by Glenn, and that's probably going to take us to the end of the hour. We're about 7 minutes away to the top. Janet, hi.
Hi, Jamie. Thank you. This has been great. We're all saying, really wonderful, helpful things to each other to consider. So that's wonderful. So sometimes when people say, I'm sorry, I've gotten to the point where that just is a knee-jerk reaction. It's like they use that to get them out of anything. And I haven't, so I don't appreciate it. But when I say, oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't you. I was just in a bad space. I had other things going on and it was triggered. Whatever it is to to say to yourself out loud so the other person hears it, why you're sorry, what was happening. I think it creates a bridge better. So that's just one point. The other thing is, so I'm putting down little notes and, patience, anger, venting, and, letting it go. So road rage is is one that I have gotten into. I'm not on the road right now, but and then I say, you know what, that person's just a different place on their journey. In other words, if we're hoping that we're journeying toward the positive, toward the good, toward self-development, and that person isn't as far along as I wish they were, they just cut me off, and it makes me really mad. So if I can let it go by just saying, you know what, just let it go. There's somewhere else, something else is going on. I don't need to engage in it, because honestly, when I engage in anger that's been thrown at me, I am more angry. I pass it on. It's just so not a good scene. But again, if I'm tired, if I'm not feeling good, yeah, I will go there sooner, quicker, better, more. But I also had some this one very simple, I work in very simple things. This very simple example of, I'm driving in a crowded place, very possibly late, very possibly tired, but I'm going along, and this person comes racing out of the alley and causes me to have to put my brakes on. And I'm never pleased when someone puts me in danger. And that person put me in danger because I could have run into him, etc. So I was totally a little steamed with that. And then this guy, the driver, he kind of just put his hands up and went, kind of like, I'm not on camera, but just kind of like oh, I'm sorry, it just dissipated the whole thing. And my anger went away. He was so cute about it. So sometimes dissipating things is another choice. We don't have to not to not go there or whatever, but something that just oh, sorry, just a little something that dissipates the situation, doesn't perpetuate it, is another consideration that I have found helpful at times. So thank you. I'm glad that I was not after Glenn, but before. Thank you.
Thanks. That's a good point. Diffusing it rather than infusing it, I think, is the better path, at least my experiences. Glenn's up, and then Cyril.
And the word was dissipate.
What's that? Sorry, go ahead, Janet. Okay.
I'm sorry. Diffuse was your word. I said dissipate.
Yeah,
so I
same.
just think of it as, and it might be the same word, but I just think of it going up in smoke and becoming nothing.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I think they're both similar. I think, not knowing the definitions by heart. Glenn's up. Cyril, go try to squeeze you in 2 minutes. Go ahead, Glenn. How you doing?
Doing great, Jamie. What a topic. It reminds me of what I do all day, which is network with people. Yeah. Who was it? Mark Twain says, I love humanity. It's people I can't stand. But I'm this thing of patience is a big deal for me, because my dad, God rest his soul, was the most patient man I ever met. Most patient man I've ever known. And he reminded me of something. And I just found something recently. Somebody had posted on social media. Check this out. Can you see that? Why you should be gentle with people, right? Someone's life and what you know about it. So it lends a sense of perspective. For me personally, patience is something that I work at very hard. Am I perfect? Do I do it all the time? Yeah, that's hilarious. I will say this, that I find when I'm in a good head space, when I'm in a good state of mind to be patient, what I find happens And maybe you've experienced the same thing, Jamie. What I find happens is that patience with other people helps them to feel safe around me. So that if there's some emotional upset, something going on in their life that I don't know about, and I am able to keep my cool in the face of the storm being thrown at me, sometimes the person that I'm with may, hey, wait a minute. What am I doing here? I'm beating this nice guy up for no good reason. Why am I doing this? So, geez, I'm sorry, Glenn. I'm having a terrible day. Can you please, no worries, man. Tell me what's going on. You see what I mean? And now I've created a space right between us here where now we can talk. But if I get back as hard as I'm getting, then it's hard. It's difficult for real conversation, real connection to take place. You know what I mean? So my interest, as I say, when I'm doing this well, my interest is in letting your whole thought flow out. I think Gail talked about that. It's because a lot of times it's just steam. Somebody's anger against me is just steam that needs to be released. And once the steam is released, okay, where's the leak? Oh, there it is. Hey, you know what? Let's talk about the leak. See if we can fix it together. Back to you, Jamie.
Good job, Glenn. Appreciate that. We're 1 minute over, but Cyril's in again. Number 3, come on in, Cyril. Let's
My apologies. I've just done a lot of. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I've just done a lot of stuff on myself about this stuff. First of all, I'd like to say that I agree with Glenn that if you can keep your patience when others are losing theirs, as the saying goes, people will often do things that they wish you would forget, that they wish they hadn't done, that they wish they forget. So forgiving and being patient is a useful tool, because particularly we know that we all fall foul of it. The other one was something that Janet mentioned about how you let other people hear that you heard their dissatisfaction. And Chris Voss has an interesting way that I've also come across from a point of view of in general for relationships and things, and that is what Chris Voss calls mirroring, which is basically repeating back to the person you're talking to once they've said their piece, the last 3 words or the last three points that they were talking about, to acknowledge the fact that you actually heard what they said, and that because when somebody, as Janet was saying, when somebody says sorry, that doesn't really cut it often, because people don't feel as though they've been heard. They just feel appeased. So by repeating back somebody's words to them can be very useful, particularly in relationships, to the fact that you've actually heard them, and without doing some sort of passive aggressive phrasing on it either, which will just be counterproductive. Anyway, the last 10 cents. Thank you.
Thanks, Cyril. Well, we're three minutes over, and I think the people are dropping like flies with other commitments and getting on with their day. I appreciate everybody being here. I love everybody. Say I love you to somebody today, and go kick some butt. We'll see you on the next call. With the hospitality suite is open, so anybody that wants to jump in there, of course they can. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Love you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.